Hello and welcome back to Wake Up Cricket powered by Pavilion Picks. This is Praatibh. I've also got Megha alongside me and we'll get started. But before that, let's hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We've been talking about how we wanted to get past Brian Lara's 400, which we've done. But now can we hit his domestic record, his first class highest score of 500 not out? Let's do that. Let's hit subscribe and let's get right into it.
Now, this is a rather grim start to the day because we're starting with an injury news, but it is what it is. Shanaka is set to replace the injured Curran at Rajasthan Royals. Tasun Shanaka is set to replace the injured Sam Curran at Rajasthan Royals for IPL 2026 and has informed his PSL team, Lahore Qalandars, of his decision. The formalities for the switch are being completed, it has been learned. Curran, who was part of a pre auction trade between Chennai Super Kings and RR, in which CSK acquired Sanju Samson and RR also got Ravindra Jadeja, has a groin issue which has ruled him out of the IPL. Kalandars, meanwhile, are replacing Shanaka with the Australian all-rounder Daniel Sams. Shanaka, lower order batter and medium pace bowler who led Sri Lanka at the recent T20 World Cup in India and Sri Lanka, comes in with good batting form. He hit a 20 ball 50 against Oman and 76 not out in 31 balls against Pakistan. He has played one season of the IPL in the past in 2023 when he played three games for Gujarat Titans with unspectacular returns.
Now, this is an interesting one, right? Especially because of the fact that I myself am a Rajasthan Royals fan. It's been huge blows. Of course, the trade itself was a large talking point when it happened, Jadeja coming back to Rajasthan Royals. But it feels like there's no use of that trade now because let go of Sanju Samson, who was in brilliant form. And now you have Sam Curran, who's also injured, which means not only are you losing, you've already lost a really good batter, but you've also lost possibly one of the best all-rounders in that Rajasthan Royals lineup because of the fact that Sam Curran has not only been doing so much in T20 cricket around the world, he has all of this franchise experience. But even outside of that, he was going to be a brilliant lower order bat and a left arm seam option. Now, Rajasthan Royals does have the luxury of multiple left arm overseas seamers in the form of Quena Mapaka as well as Nandre Berger, but they haven't been in particularly good form. They struggled in the SA20, both of them. That's something that we have covered and we have seen where both of them were going at nines and tens, which means, and they also didn't pick up a lot of wickets, which means that Sam Curran was always going to be the starter. He was always going to be someone who would bat at that 7 or 8 position. So it is a huge blow for Rajasthan Royals, which means that they will eventually have to rely a little bit more on their Indian seamers to get the job done. Having said that, I think Dasun Shanaka, from where I see it, is a brilliant addition as a replacement for Sam Curran. And of course, there's the PSL bits as well, which we will get to. But Dasun Shanaka, specifically speaking, had a brilliant World Cup for Sri Lanka. He's been in leadership roles. He has that experience as well. He's also someone who has played franchise cricket, is doing well in T20 cricket as well. So it isn't the worst replacement. Having said that, this would hamper Rajasthan Royals' initial strategies and plans, and they will have to see how exactly they are going to make use of Shanaka. Is he going to play the same role exactly that Sam Curran was going to play, or is there going to be some difference in the kind of responsibility that this man shoulders? But mostly that's it. I think from a Rajasthan standpoint, from a Rajasthan Royals fan standpoint, it is a bit of a bummer, especially because of the fact that that trade was such a huge talking point, and unfortunately, it has not panned out thus far.
Pratip, just to quote you from the previous week, Sam Curran and roles, well, they're so fluid, so flexible. He can do so many things um, in different games. Moving on,
Yeah.
Raina Hayden announced as first inductees in CSK's Hall of Fame. Suresh Raina and Matthew Hayden became the first inductees into the Chennai Super Kings Hall of Fame. The franchise confirmed on Sunday during a fan event at Chepauk that saw a reunion of some of their former players. Raina remains CSK's all-time leading run scorer with 5,529 runs even after his retirement. The 39-year-old played for CSK from the inaugural season in 2008 until 2021, where he won his fourth IPL title with the franchise. There was a two-year period in between when he was with Gujarat Lions when CSK
Yep.
were banned. Having led the franchise on a few occasions in MS Dhoni's absence, Raina was also instrumental in CSK winning the Champions League T20 twice in 2010 and 2014. In 2014 edition, he was named Player of the Tournament. Hayden, on the other hand, was a part of the CSK squad in the first three seasons of the IPL. Despite retiring from international cricket at the start of 2009, Hayden went on to win the orange cap for CSK later that year and then played a role in the franchise clinching their maiden IPL title in 2010.
Now, this is also something that we'd actually covered some time back, where we'd asked the CSK fans to go to the stadium and witness this gathering of the legends, almost like a college alumni meetup of sorts. And you can see the right people getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. No surprises there. CSK and Suresh Raina go hand in hand, they're almost synonymous. And there's just so much that you can talk about as someone who might be a CSK fan or someone who's even just watched the IPL in terms of what Suresh Raina has done for that franchise, right? Of course, we talk about CSK and Dhoni, and then we talk about CSK as well as Suresh Raina. Now, uh, of course, for him to get inducted into the Hall of Fame, there is no surprise there. He was one of the best batters, and in fact, is still on the charts for the leading run scorers. Of course, he's their highest scorer, but even in just the IPL, he is still one of the leading scorers, which just goes on to show the kind of impact he's had over the years. And I think none better than the 25 ball 87 that he was able to make. Uh, Albeit in a losing cause, which was a little sad, but that's an innings that a lot of people remember. A lot of people remember how Suresh Raina would ball those off spinners and would get in those crucial overs. Of course, he was also an absolute dynamite in the field, so that's something to keep in mind. And the batter, we do know how explosive he could be. If he was batting today, if he was part of the IPL, I know teams would have been going crazy for him, and it makes sense for him to be inducted into that Hall of Fame. Also, taken up leadership roles a lot of times, won them the Champions League as well. And apart from that, Matthew Hayden is also another talking point, right? Although I was pretty young when I watched Matthew Hayden. I was watching him in his last couple of years of play. And even then, you could see how destructive he was. You could see the kind of fear he would almost instill in the fast bowlers, especially at the top of the order, because he'd just come into the power play, walk down the wicket, and smash it. And that's basically what CSK was at the time, right? They had all of these explosive batters. I can even think back to someone like Alfie Mockle coming in towards the
Yeah.
end of the innings, and those were the golden years for CSK. And it's just kind of nice to see them having a celebration of these CSK legends. Maybe we'll see more franchise do this in the future.
Indeed, moving on. Sri Lanka players told to clear fitness tests to get NOCs for IPL 2026. Sri Lanka Cricket has asked its players to pass fitness tests in order to be eligible for the no objection certificates that would allow them to play in the franchise leagues. This is of immediate consequence for the IPL, where the likes of Vanendu Hasaranga, Lucknow Super Giants, Nuwan Tushara, Royal Challengers Bangalore, Matisha Patirana, Kolkata Knight Riders, and Eshan Malinga, Sunrise Hyderabad, are due to arrive over the next few weeks. Dushmanta Chamira, Pathum Nisanka, both New Delhi Capitals, and Kamendu Mendes, Sunrise Hyderabad, have passed a physical performance test and are ready, and they have been cleared to play in the IPL. Nuwan Thusara's eligibility for a NOC to participate in the IPL will be subject to the outcome of his physical performance test, a board release said. Manendu Hasaranga, Eshan Malinga, and Matisha Patirana, who have requested NOCs to participate in the IPL 2026, are yet to undergo the physical performance test, as they are still undergoing rehabilitation to recover from injuries sustained. All three of those players who were injured either in the lead up to or during the T20 World Cup. Pathirana is already set to miss the start of IPL season and is expected to be available only from mid April.
Now, there's a couple of talking points here, right? Of course, Sri Lanka cricket doing this is a good thing, because you don't want your players who are just coming back from injury after having missed a huge chunk
Yeah.
of the T20 World Cup. You don't want them to get injured once again in the IPL. So it makes sense for them to have all of these tests and ensure that their players are at least going to be able to sustain that entire season of the IPL. Because even as Sri Lanka's cricket board, you do realize that this is invaluable experience for these players going to play in India, right? So it makes sense for them to take all precautions to ensure that, okay, hey, here's my players, I know they're just returning from injury, what is the best I can do to ensure that they can not only be fit, but they can also go and clear those tests, play cricket, and basically upskill themselves to a point where it helps Sri Lankan cricket. Because the other conversation is also around the change in management. Jayasuriya is now part of the national center, and you know that Kirsten's come into the mix.
Hmm.
But this also points at a bit of a systemic problem, where we have seen over the years how a lot of Sri Lankan cricketers, there's been a lot of discourse around the fitness levels, and
Yeah.
how some of these players look and how some of these players are in terms of their fitness. Because even Hasaranga last time around in the IPL was injured midway through, right? So it's not something that is a one off. It has happened with a lot of these players, especially their bowlers, and it's happened a lot. It also, of course, talks about the kind of workload there is, but even more so about the kind of fitness standards there are in Sri Lankan cricket at the moment. Clearly, there is some sort of revamp that people have spoken about. People have raised questions on these players and whether or not they're actually international players because the kind of fitness standards that they're being held to. And so I think this, in that direction, in that sense, is a step in the right direction at least. And all in all, of course, three of the players have been cleared already. Chamira, one of the better fast bowlers that Sri Lanka has produced in the recent past, him being fit is great for the franchise. So is the case with a couple of the other players as well. For RCB, Nuwan Toshara again becomes important, especially because Hazelwood is not going to be around. Same with SRH because Ishan Malinga did a good showing last season around. So yeah.
And there'd obviously be this fear in Sri Lankan cricket. What if
Hmm.
players who have not really recovered, jumping
Yeah,
on the IPL bandwagon?
exactly.
All right, then. So, moving on to the next story, which is a Mohsin Naqvi quote. Mohsin Naqvi, PCB, will take action against players opting out of PSL for IPL. PCB chairman Mohsin Naqvi has promised to take legal action against players who've left the PSL for the IPL at the last minute, with the two leagues clashing for the second year in a row. Sri Lanka's Dasun Shanaka has become the second player to do so, opting out of Lahore Qalandars roster to replace the injured Sam Curran for Rajasthan Royals at the IPL. Australian all-rounder Daniel Sams will replace Shanaka at Qalandars. Blessing Muzarabani has already pulled out of the PSL after securing an IPL deal with Kolkata Knight Riders. We will take action against those players according to the rules, Naqvi said on Sunday. There was a case last year too, that is Corbin Bosch, who was also banned from PSL for 1 year. And the same thing will happen this time. Bosch was a diamond pick for Peshawar Zalmi last time, but he made a late switch to play for Mumbai Indians in the IPL. Clashing with the IPL is not an issue because the players are going to be leaving. We'll also get excellent players coming here. We could not afford to postpone the PSL because we have no other window all year.
All right, so here as well, right? I mean, no surprises there that someone would prefer a PSL, prefer an IPL contract over PSL. Not just because of the quality of cricket. I'm sure PSL has decent quality of cricket, but IPL is a completely different beast. That's one thing you need to keep in mind. But even outside of that, even the money factor comes into the picture, right? Of course, these players will be offered bigger contracts when it comes to the IPL. There's a lot more money inflow here, so it just logically makes sense why these players would be ready to leave the PSL and come into the IPL, even if it means that it warrants them a 1 year ban because they'd probably make that much money anyway. So
Yeah.
that's something to keep in mind. And from PSL and from Mohsin Naqvi's point of view, I think it's only fair that they impose a 1 year ban on these players as they did with Corbin Bosch, because otherwise everyone takes the leave for granted. Everyone just comes in and hopes that a player in the IPL gets injured and then they get picked into the IPL. So it is something you would come to expect. It is something that the IPL would also do if players would keep leaving the IPL. Of course, we know the likes of Harry Brook and the entire scenario there where he's pulled out of the auction or got picked and then pulled out. So
Jason Roy as well,
Jason
multiple
Roy as
times.
well. There's quite a few names, actually, quite a few England cricketers now that I think
Yeah.
about it. But yeah, shout out England cricket team. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind. And there's nothing crazy about it, to be fair. What also that something that they can also keep in mind is that there's enough cricketers out there. Like Dastan Chanaka going out means Daniel Sams comes in, who's also quality player. He's left arm pacer, can bat a bit in the lower order, has played for Australia a bunch in the T20 format as well. So it's not like you're going to lose out one international star and then there's just no international star who can come and replace. That's something that I think Nakwi's also mentioned, where there's enough talent and there's enough excellent cricketers out there who can take these roles. And the only reason this is even coming up is because of the clash in schedules, which
Hmm.
points to a greater discussion that people need to have around franchise leagues. And there's so many of them right now. So how do you want to organize that? Do you want to have three set windows in the year where you have T20 cricket? But that's a conversation for another time.
Hmm. Moving on to the next story, which is again around PSL
Mhm.
2026 to be played behind closed doors. The Pakistan Super League 2026 will take place in front of empty stadiums owing to the ongoing West Asia crisis. The tournament has also been reduced to two venues and not six, as was originally scheduled. All PSL matches will now take place in Lahore or Karachi. The opening ceremony in Lahore has also been cancelled. The PCB chairman Mohsen Naqvi left the possibility open that the later stages of the tournament could be held with crowds, but that would be contingent on the crisis in Iran ending. Perhaps it ends in 10 days or perhaps 15. Looking at all of this and after discussions with the security agencies, we decided that the PSL would continue as per the original schedule, but we can't ask people to restrict their movements and then have 30,000 people in stadiums every day. We decided that as long as this crisis is ongoing, we'll not have the crowds at the matches. This was a difficult decision, but it needed to be made. The opening ceremony will also be cancelled. Just two more things.
Hmm.
Previous line of the previous story probably is also linked to this one, where he said that there's
Yeah.
no other window. And secondly, it's also because of the Afghanistan Pakistan issue, and more because of that,
Right.
because the West Asia crisis isn't directly as much affecting Pakistan as that
Hmm.
war is.
Makes sense. And I mean, this is where, like, the reason I put this story up was for this very reason, right? Because as much as we look at cricket in isolation, you can't deny the fact that it is still affected by what happens in the world. I mean, I think it was just a couple of days back when we discussed about the shortage of leather balls as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
PCB and the Duke's balls. And that also is connected to the fact that resources are somewhere not in the pipeline and are not being able to import or export and all of that jazz. And because of that, it is affecting cricket now. So all in all, it does not help that the world is so geopolitically charged at the moment, which is clearly having an impact in cricket as well. So that's the only reason I kind of wanted to put this story out. I think the rest is fairly factual in that, of course, you don't want to endanger the lives of so many people. And because of the conflict that you're also having, you don't want to basically put all these lives at risk. And ultimately, I mean, cricket is one thing, but what also takes precedence is what is happening in the world at the moment. And really, that's about it. I mean, there's a minute left, but there's not really much to add on to here.
And there's a meme left to talk about, and that
Yeah.
meme connects to the first story, the story that we started with, and it is about the injuries.
Well, I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I think I forgot to give credit to the person I found this from on Reddit, so I will do that in the comments possibly. But yeah, it's been I can't remember the last time an IPL had these many injuries before the start of the season. It almost feels like, and it's not just random injuries, right? It's not just maybe the one-off overseas player or just
Mm.
one Indian player who's getting injured. It's proper players who are going to be an integral part possibly of the 11, someone like Patirana, Harshit Rana, so many of these
Yeah.
people injured. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it talks about the international schedule and the kind of workloads there are in place, because at the start of this year we knew that we are going to be in for 6 months of just T20 cricket, which is very fast paced. There's a lot of movement, there's a lot of travel, there's a lot of brand commitments that these teams have, and these players practically do not get to rest. And I think that's what is being seen here, wherein we're seeing so many players who are either injured or maybe they're not injured but just don't want to play the IPL. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's honestly a bit of a surprise to see so many players go out. But the flip side is that at least maybe we will get to see a few more Indian faces into the mix now that some of these overseas players are injured. Teams will have to rejig their combinations, do the best with the players that they have available, and which means that there is a little more chance for Indian talent to shine through, right? Of course, there's only four overseas players that a team can play, but even then, if you're losing out on one key overseas player, you maybe find out that, hey, this Indian player can do the job for me. This player has the caliber, has the potential to be able to come in and do that. So, I mean, it's glass half full, glass half empty kind of situation. It's the perspective that you look at it with. But I think the franchisees have enough of a pool of players to be able to choose from, and they're all quality. That's the reason they're a part of the IPL itself. But yeah, that's really it. Injured Premier League. Mega, any thoughts? Do you recall ever seeing these many injured players before the start of an IPL season?
Yeah, they're coming left, right, and center, and also because
Yeah.
it is preceded by T20 World Cup, so those workloads probably would have affected the players as well.
Mm,
They might have been peaking for the T20 World Cup, but
possible.
apart from that, unless it's a player around whom everything has been strategized,
Mm,
I don't think it makes much of a difference. But yeah, if that player is pivotal to the combination, I think then it does make a difference. So, for example, a player you
yeah.
forked out a lot of money for and then built your team around
Mm,
him, and
yeah.
him getting injured does make it very complicated. There are two people who said hello, and it's Sandeep and Nani Reddy. Hello from Pavilion
Hello.
Picks. Hello from Wake Up Cricket.
Awesome. I think that concludes all of our news for the day. We will come back tomorrow. Get us to 500 subscribers. It would be a nice milestone to hit. That's it from us. Hit that like button, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Get up at 8 a.m. Get your news or your daily dose of cricket around the world. That's it from us. Peace.